Welcome to Fair Game. I'm Kristine Leahy. What do Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and Kobe Bryant have in common? My guest today, Andy Bernstein. He's one of the most notable photographers in sports history. His collaboration with Kobe, called The Mamba Mentality, is available now. Andy Bernstein is here. Andy, you and I go way back.
We do.
Like years now at this point.
Yeah.
And you you take photos of everybody, right? Who's at Staples Center, especially like celebrities, the players, and just people that you know. You've taken two of my favorite photos, and you send them to me, which is so nice. One of them was, I was in this really happy moment of my life. I had just accepted a new job, and no one knew yet, and you got this photo.
Yep.
And then me and Shaq.
Yeah, I remember that one with you and Shaq. It actually made you look like normal size.
Instead of a giant size. But it's so nice what you do, because you send the photos to everybody the next day.
Yeah, I've been doing that, Kristine, my whole career, honestly, since I was a rookie photographer, because I knew that my friends in the media, the trainers, the people behind the scenes, ball boys, ushers, they would never see pictures of themselves. And you know, this is such a special time in our lives to be around these great athletes, these games, you know, sports history. So to pull that out, you know, 40 years later, say, yeah, I was there. I was there when Kirk Gibson hit that home run. Yeah, it was me. I'm, you know, in the background.
I always appreciate too that they're candids.
Yeah.
You never know that you're taking the picture, because you have that long lens. You can take it from really, really far away.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's really a great benefit of my job.
So you're from Brooklyn. How does a kid from Brooklyn become this huge, huge sports photographer that everyone has seen your photos?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I grew up a big sports fan. I was the shortest kid on my block, and I was good at sports, but I knew I would never be like a varsity player or anything. I was always the last kid picked. But I loved playing basketball. I loved playing street hockey, stickball, all the stuff we played in Brooklyn. And my dad and I, we bonded over sports. My dad was a big sports fan, mostly Rangers hockey fan, and I know you're from Boston, so that we have
I'm from Chicago.
Oh, you're from Chicago.
I lived in Boston.
But when we met, you had just come from Boston.
Yes.
And we had this discussion about Rangers Brewers. I don't think you talked to me for like a month after that.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, my dad and I bonded over hockey and sports, and then photography. My dad got me into photography at 14, bought me my first camera. So it was a great marriage of the two passions, the two loves that I had, sports, photography, plus I get the best seat in the house, and they pay me to do it, so you know, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Well, and now you have some of the most iconic photos, I think, in all of sports, and I want to start with asking you about this one. This is Bird and Magic from the '87 finals.
Oh, okay.
I mean, everyone's seen this photo. Tell me the story behind this.
Well, what's interesting mostly about this photo is the fact that Magic and Bird, as you probably remember, they didn't match up against each other. Okay, one was a guard, one was a forward. In those days, there wasn't a lot of switching going on. So the only times I could ever get a picture of those guys in the same shot was either at the captain's meeting at 5 minutes before the game when they come shake hands, which made for a great picture, or, God willing, they would line up at a free throw situation facing me. You know, they could have been not facing me, or they could have had somebody in the middle. So this maybe happened twice a game, you know, if I was lucky.
And you got it.
And I got it. Yeah, there's been 2 or 3 times in their history that I was able to get that picture. And there really are not any photos of them like D'ing the other guy up, or, you know, blocking a shot like you would have with, you know, Jordan and Magic D'ing each other up or whatever, or Curry, even Curry and LeBron in this modern era. But it was very frustrating, because, you know, those are the guys. You know, they define the era. So you got to get them in the same frame some way or another.
So you're sitting there waiting for this moment to happen.
No, I'm actually praying. I'm praying for that moment to happen, yes.
This is probably the most iconic photo ever. You got this. This is Michael Jordan hugging a trophy. His dad's there looking on at him. What do you remember most about this?
Well, this was such an incredible moment at the time, and now, you know, whatever, 30-some years later, it just still lives, you know, in NBA history. Michael Jordan's first championship, 1991. Took him 7 years to get to the mountaintop to win his first finals. And there's so much backstory involved, but in a nutshell, all hell was breaking loose in the visitors' locker room. They had won at the Forum, and the network at the time had the brilliant idea of doing the trophy presentation in a locker room about the size of like a men's room, honestly, live. And they did that, and then they went to commercial, and the next shot was going to be somebody interviewing Michael on live TV, and they couldn't find him. Like, they're in commercial, and they're frantically looking for him. He had taken off from the trophy presentation somewhere in the chaos and the bedlam of the locker room. And I was standing on a bridge table with pandemonium and chaos going on in front of me, and something just said, "Look to your left." And I looked to my left, and there he was in a locker. He had taken the trophy with him, and his dad was with him, you know, kind of just, they just had a moment. And I just wheeled around, took 2 quick shots, boom, boom. And then I remember a producer, like, literally, like, grabbed him and brought him, you know, to do the live interview.
That is so cool.
And you know, it's just an amazing moment in time. You know, I'm a photojournalist, but you know, never made my living being a news photographer. This is very much a news photo.
Sure.
And it meant a lot to Michael. I got a call from Michael's office after his dad passed away that this was a very important photo for him, and would I please make a print and sign it and send it to him. And you know, the fact that this is now hanging in his house or his office means a lot to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was very close with my dad, who passed away. Michael's dad and my dad actually met each other during the whole Dream Team experience. So there's a lot of history there, yeah.
So you have a photo that's hanging in Michael Jordan's house.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it really is kind of mind-blowing to me that is actually happening.
So another one of my favorite Michael Jordan photos, this comes from a Bulls-Lakers preseason game in 1988. It's the "Come Fly With Me" photo.
Okay.
His tongue's not out though,
Right.
which is a rare catch.
Well,
good job by you.
Yeah, see, this is really interesting, that the fact that you knew that it was a preseason game, because back in the day, they used to play the Hall of Fame Classic, which I think they brought the team that had won the championship before, and then another team, so it was the Lakers and Bulls, and honestly, a meaningless game in the preseason in Springfield, Massachusetts, basically in the middle of nowhere. And in those days, I was only able to do 1 remote camera. Now I do, you know, I can do an infinite amount.
So hold on, let me point this out. You took this photo.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, you're also in this photo.
I'm in the photo.
You're right over here.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But you took the picture. How did you do that?
Well, what we did in those days was you had a wire that went from you and a little trigger button all the way around the court to the camera. In this case, the camera's mounted through the backboard, the glass backboard, and when I push the trigger button, boom, you know, the camera goes off and the strobes go off. And the strobes are these big flashes that are up in the ceiling that you've probably seen a million times, these flashes that continually go off during the game. And what's tricky is you have to synchronize the strobe burst with the shutter going off and time it when you're only seeing the back of what you're shooting. So it was very tricky. Didn't know I got this picture until I went all night, drove to New York, dropped the film off at a lab, waited at a coffee shop for it to be developed, and boom, there it was.
Has anyone ever gotten mad at you for taking their picture?
No, I honestly have never had an athlete, you know, give me one of these, or you know, luckily I don't work in the entertainment world. Where
You're not a paparazzi.
Kind of getting that, but I really have a sixth sense, I think, of knowing when to get in, when to get out. You know, it all started with Pat Riley, and I could tell you that story because it's a pretty cool story. You know, as a young photographer, I was very, you know, I had a chip on my shoulder. I'm a Brooklyn guy, and you know, I wanted to get my foot in the door and find a way in, and I kept trying over and over to get into Riley's huddle. You know, his pregame huddle, and also, you know, when there was a timeout, and he kept pushing me out, and you know, he's a Schenectady guy, so he had very colorful language to get me out of the. And finally, after about 7 or 8 games, it's a pregame. The guys are warming up. He sees me on the baseline. He goes, "Hey, come over here, kid." And he gives me one of those. I go over. I say, "Yes, coach." He says, "Why are you trying to get in my huddle? Every single game you get in my huddle, I kick you out. What's going on?" I said, "Well, coach, I think the fans want to see what's happening, the inside." You know, not even TV was getting in the huddle in those days.
Yeah.
They want to see you diagramming a play or talking to Magic or the banter between you and Bill Burtka, the assistant coach. And he goes, "Okay," he says, "I'll let you come in one time tonight. You screw that up, you're never coming back." So I did it, and I got actually a really cool picture, and I made a print. And from then on, he let me in the locker room, and I was traveling on the bus with them and then the plane, and you know, so things worked out. And that's sort of a mushroom effect, because then the other coaches and the other players see that, And the organization, the Laker organization, felt very comfortable with me in that role. So, from one era to the next, I was able to bring that.